Indomitable Deities. Indomitable means to be very courageous, be unstoppable, and deities are gods. In the days of the Tokaido Shogunate, which started in the early 1600s, Shogun was the military commander of Japan. He actually really ruled the country. The emperor was more of a figurehead meaning that he's there and the people bow down to him, but they're not really in control of the country. When the country was enjoying peace and prosperity, the feudal lords used to indulge in various pastimes among themselves. Indulge means to do something that you like to do. One of these indulgences was wrestling. Most of the lords had their own wrestlers who were put into the arena to challenge the wrestlers of other lords. And the wrestling in Japan is usually sumo wrestling, which is a matter of they have a big circle and the two men face off against each other and start, and the idea is that the first one that gets thrown out of the big ring is the loser. So most of the lords had their own wrestlers who were put into the arena to challenge the wrestlers of the other lords. Naturally, the large and rich lords had strong wrestlers. This recreation among the feudal lords, who formed the upper class of society in those days, became very popular in the middle of the Edo period, from 1603 to 1868 AD. Okay, so that's 260 plus years. Edo was the name for Tokyo before it became Tokyo, which means Eastern Capital. The fief, which is a ruled area of Sasayama in the province of Tamba, was a medium-sized one. The lord at that time was called Aoyama Tadayasu. He was an ambitious and enterprising man. Aoyama Tadayasu served as a member of the Shogun's Council of Elders. It was a post that not many could attain in their lifetime, so he was a very high-ranking person. In those days, the wrestling tournament was held every year in the presence of the Shogun. Therefore, to have strong wrestlers was a great honor for the feudal lords. Somehow, Lord Tadayasu's wrestlers were always weak and were always eliminated in the initial round. The first round, they got put out. One year, while Lord Tadayasu was brooding over the annual wrestling matches in his residence in Edo, Tokyo, he was suddenly informed of the arrival of a team of wrestlers from his fief in Sasayama. Brooding means that he was kind of cast down. He's thinking about what's going on, but he's not feeling good about it. My lord, 10 wrestlers have just arrived from the country. They earnestly wish to be received in audience, the steward announced. Lord Tadayasu could not remember having sent any request for a wrestling team from the country. That is strange, he thought. I was just wondering what I should do with my weak wrestlers this year. Since they have come all the way from Sasayama, I might as well see them. And so the wrestlers were presented to the Lord. On seeing the rustic wrestlers, Lord Tadayasu felt a bit uncertain, as most of them were not as big as he had expected. Sumo wrestlers are usually really big guys, about 300 pounds or more. Still, Lord Tadayasu thought they looked dauntless, and if they had iron nerves, so he thought they at least possessed a fair chance of advancing into the second round. Steward, give these wrestlers the best treatment you can think of, with the finest food and drink. Lord Tadayasu, who was known as a man of understanding, ordered this. If by any chance my wrestlers can show some sign of improvement this year before the Shogun, I'll have a better chance of talking with Lord Tadayasu thought. He then offered prayers to all the gods in his fief, especially those of the Inari shrines, god of the harvest, which were erected throughout his domain. Domain is his area of control. When the day of the wrestling tournament came, Lord Tadayasu was in an unusually good mood. He hoped for good results from his new wrestlers and took the seat nearest the arena and the Shogun. As he had expected, all his wrestlers easily won in the first round. This feat alone was good enough to make him proud in the immediate presence of the mighty Shogun. As the tournament progressed, contrary to the forecast and very much to the surprise of all present, the wrestlers from Sasayama finally emerged as the victors of the day. Lord Tadayasu was elated. That means he was really happy. As soon as he had returned to his residence, he ordered his steward to invite the wrestlers for a grand party to show his appreciation of their extraordinary performances. Extraordinary is really above average. My lord, the steward said, somewhat perplexed, our wrestlers have already gone. They left Edo immediately after the tournament and on their way back to Sasayama. What did you say? They've already gone? They can't be far away. Call them back. The steward dispatched his men to call him back. The first stop for travelers in those days going down the Tokaido highway was Shinagawa. Tokaido, that's a very famous highway. And what it means, to is east, kai means sea, and do is the way or the road. So it's the East Sea Road. When the men came to Shinagawa, they could not find any trace of the wrestler having stopped there. Then they searched the next stop at Kodagaya, and then at Odawara, and then on to Hakone, and all the possible places along the Tokaido highway. While all their efforts were in vain, finally they reached Sasayama. When the Kero, who was in charge of the feudal affairs in the absence of the Lord, was consulted, he knew nothing of sending a team of wrestlers to Edo. What are the names of the wrestlers? You might be able to recognize them by their names, the Kado said. They are Hata no Yama, Ochizan, Tobi no Yama, Zochizan, Shino de Yama. Hey, they certainly sound like wrestlers' names, but at the same time, they're names of some of our Inari shrines. Do you think the Inari gods might have gone to Edo to help our lord out? One of the more learned among the retainers spoke out. When Lord Tadayasu heard about these Inari gods, he was greatly pleased and donated a large sum of money and other offerings to their shrines. They were thereafter known as the Indomitable Deities, the Unbeatable Deities. They were known as this because they refused to be defeated in the annual wrestling tournament before the Shogun and had upheld the honor of Sasayama. Even today, many of the Inari shrines in the city of Sasayama, Hyogo Prefecture, retain wrestlers' names that have survived through many generations. Yogaya Prefecture. Let's go see where that is. Here's our map of Japan again. Here's Tokyo. So 400 years ago, this was probably a much smaller area right in here. And then they're going south and passing. It says the first stop on the Tokaido highway was Shinagawa. So I'm thinking that probably this number one here was the Tokaido highway long ago. And it's not following it exactly anymore, but it kind of is. Here's Yokohama here. So Shinagawa was before Yokohama, so it's about in here. And then it says they stopped at Hodogaya. Hodogaya, we practiced there, the Yokohama Aikikai, we practiced there for a while in Hodogaya. So that's down around here, a little bit south of Yokohama. And then on down to Odawara. Here's Odawara, but down here. And then Hakone is a tourist area for the ancient Japanese for viewing Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is right there, is Fuji. So they'd probably be viewing across here to look at Mount Fuji. So here it's coming down through here and across here and following along the coast here. From this area down here, it's going up and traveling up this way past Nagoya. And then back down along here. It's still following the coast, even though it's not the ocean. It's still a big bay there. Going up here over to Kyoto. And then here's Sasayama over here. So maybe they're following this road here, and then it cuts off and comes over here. And there's Sasayama. This area in here is Hyogo Prefecture.